And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I am JC Kenny, and happy Tuesday afternoon, folks. Sarah, we have a really fun guest hanging with us, so I think it's time to get bookish.
I say that's the best thing that we can get to this week.
Yes.
The sun's out here in New York, which is, I can't complain, and I can't complain because we have, as you said, an amazing guest joining us this afternoon, cozy mystery author extraordinaire TK Sheffield. TK, welcome to the show.
Woo!
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am just thrilled to be here to talk about cozy mysteries and writing and my wonderful home state of Wisconsin, where we just had a thunderstorm. As I was just talking earlier, if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes and it changes. So it's just wonderful to be here, and thank you for having me.
Well, we are thrilled to have you on the show.
Absolutely,
and to learn more about the Backyard Model Mysteries, which a super fun concept, which and the scenes and the setting that you paint, you can tell that you live where you write because it's so vivid. It's so, we're so in the setting with our characters. So I can't wait to learn more about how this idea came to be and learn more about Mel and her friends. But before we dive into the series, can you talk us through a little bit about your background and how you became a writer?
Yes, thank you for asking. I would love to. I started out a career in communications and public relations, and then I got married and had children and stayed home for a number of years. And then I had a life change. I went through a divorce, and I had to get back on the career horse and ride it out. So what I did was I went back to school and I got a master's degree. I had a wonderful experience. It was a lot of hard work. I had a full-time job, and I was a full-time grad student and a single mom. But I got through it. I loved it. And after that, I went into teaching. So I taught college writing for 10 years, and I, put my heart and soul into it. And I explained why writing was good for you. And I could talk about thesis statements and how, if you can handle a 3-point thesis, you can write anything, right? You can write anything from an email to a PowerPoint presentation to a composition paper. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I retired from that about 3-4 years ago, and I said, you know what, it's time to write books. So my husband and I purchased a fixer-upper, and I walked into the backyard. You can see it on my Instagram, the Backyard Model Mystery, the Backyard Model. I share sunrises and views of my backyard. I'm from Wisconsin. And I walked into the backyard and I said, you know what, this is the inspiration. This is what I need. And so I started writing the Backyard Model Mysteries, and the book one is called Model Suspect. And I actually wrote that on my hands and knees because I had a bad back.
Oh,
So
Oh, wow. Holy smokes. There's a first for you, folks. I bet you never heard that before.
In this office, there's a footstool behind me. You can't see it, but that's all I could do because it's much better now. But again, it was all worth it. I would do it all over again to get where I am now, and which is sharing my love of mysteries, Wisconsin, and a little bit of fashion too in my stories.
Well, that's a fabulous, number one, thank you for for shaping young minds and showing folks the power and passion that writing brings. Your comment about, if you can write a 3-point thesis, you can write anything. And I think that's a concept that a lot of people don't necessarily realize or that they take hold of. So thank you for promoting that. That's amazing. And we're so glad that, you have that reflection of, I would do it all over again to be in this moment. That's a very beautiful, I think a beautiful way to look at life.
Indeed.
So I would love...
for the aspiring authors in the audience, I just want to encourage you. It was a 10-year process to get to this stage, to have 2 books out, and a 3rd one coming out in the fall. It was a long process. And I went to, and when I was getting my master's, I went through workshops, and my material was redlined and marked up. And, you feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And then I went to conferences. I went to a number of excellent conferences with big name authors and submitted my first pages and got feedback that wasn't positive, but I deserved it. It wasn't the level it needed to be. And I learned from it rather than take it personally, right? Because it's not personal. You take that criticism and you go, okay, how can I make this better? And then you go read, and then you go write, and then you get some trusted people around you who read your work and give you more feedback. And then you join writing groups. And if it's your dream and you want to do it, do it.
There you go, folks. You got your marching orders right there.
Yes, that's a great message for anyone out in our audience who is thinking about, maybe it's time to start writing that book. And speaking of our audience members, we've got some folks chiming in to say hello. We've got Mizan, Farmhouse Reader, Mark, and DHB. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Great to have you here. And if you have any questions for TK as we're going along, feel free to drop them into the chat. We also have a very fun giveaway happening today. TK is generously giving away 2 books to one lucky winner. We have Model Suspect, which is book 1 in her Backyard Model series, and then Model Wave, which is coming out May 21st. So we'll actually go ahead, since we do have a shorter show today. Let's go ahead and get our magic word out there so that folks can type it into the chat. TK, would you like to tell folks what they should be typing in?
The magic word, what they should be typing in, is cheesehead.
Nice.
Cheesehead.
Wisconsin all the way. And while they're typing that in, TK, let's just kind of jump right in. As you said, you got 2 books in your series out, Model Suspect, Model Wave. You got a 3rd one coming. Your main character, your amateur sleuth, Mel Tower. Tell us about her.
Mel Tower is a retired former fashion model. Her parents were killed when she was young at age 18, and they didn't have much. She had an ability to, as she describes herself, she says, I was tall and I could stand still. So Inga Honeythorn, her dear friend from town, said, you know what, I'm going to help you. And now remember, Mel Tower at this time, she's 45, right? She's retired from New York, returned to her hometown, opened a craft mall. But when she started in the modeling world, social media didn't exist. So everything was done by phone calls and snail mail, right? You did something called, you take Polaroids, right? And they would submit you, and you'd submit to the New Faces director. And she was selected. So she goes out to New York. She works very hard. She was never an it girl. We just had the Met Gala with all the beautiful people and their fancy clothes. She wasn't one of those. She was what they call a B-list or a C-list model, where, yes, you could do some of the fashion editorial work, but mostly you were commercial or lifestyle. And so you were just sort of in the background of photos. You did a lot of catalogs. You did a lot of body parts, right? But she made it work. She lived in a 1-bedroom walk-up with no elevator and saved her pennies. And she moved back home when she sort of aged out of the industry, and she bought a craft mall and remodeled it and brought in vendors, and now turned into an amateur sleuth.
That is such a vivid and fun backstory, or I guess maybe not necessarily fun, but just like so interesting. And the world that Mel used to inhabit, how she has to kind of pull the lessons that she learned while being a model into not only managing her business, but into her investigation, I think was really, really clever. So I'm curious, TK, how did you decide that your main character was going to be a former fashion model?
Well, it's somewhat drawn from my background. I did a little bit of modeling, and the world has always fascinated me. I loved the movie The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh,
And
yes.
I just thought, how can I make that work into a mystery?
Mhm.
And so, you can bring her in as, a top model with amateur soup skills, but it didn't really speak to my background in Wisconsin, right?
Mhm.
I love horses. I was a farm girl. So I just thought, how am I going to make this work in terms of the plot? And, so Mel is very essentially blue collar. Her friends are blue collar. One of her best friends is a delivery driver, right? Who really the knights of the road. Her friend Steven knows everybody in town. He's got the secret codes into houses. He may even have a key here and there. So, he helps her problem solve. And it was just the way it worked out. It just was a natural fit for me to have her be somewhat of a blue collar, hard scrabble working girl, if you will. And, it's just the way I told the story. And I'm so glad that that's the way it turned out. I write books for people who want to laugh and escape, right?
Yes.
So she's, her character arc is that, the irony is she was a mannequin, so to speak, in a creative industry, but she had to be silent because in her time in the industry, models, there was no social media. You didn't dare post a photo that wasn't approved by your agency, or you could get dropped. So it was a different world that she worked in. And so her character arc is she's learning as she comes home to be more emotionally available and maybe open up her heart to somebody. So, that was fun.
That is just so cool because, we could spend hours talking about Mel, just, with her background and all of those things you're telling us about. Unfortunately, we only got 20 more minutes, which is a bummer. So you said she comes back home to Wisconsin. Very different from life in fast-paced New York. Tell us a little bit about the setting. You mentioned you're from Wisconsin, so kind of set that scene for us in the books.
Yeah, she lives in the little fictional town of Cinnamon, which is a touristy little place, one of those little burgs where you visit on the weekends, and it's very quiet during the week. And so in the first book, it's to lead up to the holidays, and she attends for a week-long series of fun parties in her little town leading up to the holidays. And so if you can imagine a small town where there's a lot of cute little shops, if you've ever been to a place called Galena, Illinois,
Yes.
Which is fabulous, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just charming, and it's old world architecture, and it's all these fun little antique stores and, soap stores and cute coffee shops. And so that's what our little town is like.
I love the name Cinnamon.
Yeah.
That I was like, and that kind of segues perfectly into, there's so many great names in this series. First off, let's talk about the craft mall. So first, as I was reading it, I was learning I've never heard of a craft mall before. So I was like, what is this concept that we're talking about? But learning about the different vendors and these artisans that are coming in, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is such a cool concept. So tell us a little bit about this kind of mecca that Mel has opened.
That's exactly what it is. Have you been to one? It's it's basically a remodeled building. Hers it was a blacksmith shop, and it was 3 stories. And she remodeled it into little booths so that artists, people who make candles, they make jewelry, they make a woman with a llama shop has, she makes, fuzzy little teddy bears, and that it's actually, I have one right up the road from me. Mm-hmm. And so I thought of all the shops that they have, and I thought, okay, this will work. And so, it's just a place to go walk around, and the floors creak, and they've got thick stone walls, and it probably smells a little musty until you get to the soap store.
Yeah, I'm wondering, and we have one of our audience members, Mizian, saying how intrigued she is because she's never heard of a craft mall either. We're on the East Coast, so I'm wondering if this is a Midwest like treasure, because this sounds like an amazing place to find like just basically anything that you need.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's local artists, are making what they produce, and a lot of furniture. You've seen on Instagram and on social media, you see the people who do the furniture flips and that. We have a number of those. So it's always, and the fun part is it's always different. It always changes every time I go in, And so, it's like a treasure hunt every time you do it, every time you shop. The one up the road from me, I think, was a train depot that they remodeled into, but probably 20 or 30 different vendors. And so you can spend a whole afternoon in there. There's a bakery right nearby, so you go have your muffin, and a bookstore right near.
Ooh, perfect.
So,
A one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Mel's place is called the Bell, Book, and Anvil. How did you come up with that name?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how I come up with some of my names. And the funny thing is, in the third book, in Model Ghost, that comes out this fall, she opens a bookstore down the street. There's a kind of an old building. So she decided her little town needs an indie bookstore, right? So it's the Bell, Book, and Melville.
Your puns, by the way, are just, you TK could write a master class and charge people the $400 or whatever based on your puns, because they are so delightful and so fun. And I want to jump in here and let you know that Mizan, talking about the Craft Mall, says it sounds like her kind of mall, and Kate says that the Craft Mall sounds like heaven. So there you go.
Oh, great! Oh, well, read the books. Come visit.
You'll be very much immersed into the Craft Mall atmosphere and world.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about setting. We've talked a little bit about Mel, our main character. Let's talk a little bit about her circle of friends and people who are helping her, not only in her business, but with her mystery solving. And in particular, I'd love to talk about Steven, the delivery driver, and Fern Bubbles, another name that I absolutely love, her social media guru.
Thank you for asking. I have so much fun with the side characters because, essentially when you're writing, right, you have your main character who has their flaws. They're never can be perfect, right? Because that just doesn't work for telling a good story. But then you can develop these alter egos, right? So she has her cousin Lou, who is always the foil, right? Her cousin Lou is going to get everybody into trouble. And then she has her friend Steven, who, she adores, but he's like her little brother. People thought maybe they had a thing, but no, he's 10 years younger. So it's like her little brother. And he's also blue collar. He couldn't afford college. So he went straight into the delivery business, and he knows more than his dispatcher. So he can take her around town and see, all the hidden places. And then Fern Bubble, she runs a horse rescue and also a PR business. And Fern is sort of Mel's common sense, right? She's calm, cool, collected. She knows how to communicate. She knows how to solve problems. And so she's who Mel turns to when she's got some issues going on. And she runs her podcast is called Bubbles and Fiber, as we talked earlier. Because at my age, you kind of realize what life is about. So you have some bubbles, and that's all the fun. And then the fiber is the hard work that you need to do to get things done.
So there you go, right there, bubbles and fiber. Yeah, I need that in my life, that's for sure. So, one of the things I'd like to talk about before we run out of time is you talked about with Mel's career as kind of the B or C list model. It was during a time before social media. And very much seen but not be heard kind of thing. That's very different from the murder victim in book 1. Can you tell us a little bit about this murder victim? Because it seems to me there's a real interesting dichotomy there between Mel's background and this person who turns up dead.
That is an excellent observation of the generational clash that's there. The murder victim, she wanted to move into the social media space. She wanted to bring people along with her. She wanted to spread the idea of the concept of, let's go online and you can talk about your products. Well, Mel was always, she was always hesitant to do that because her industry didn't let her do that. So there was definitely a clash there. But, Mel likes to give people a chance and not be judgmental. So she tried to bring the woman into, among the artists. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for a variety of reasons. But yes, there is that contrast there.
And the manner in which our victim is found is quite, right from page 1, we are in this mystery. You don't waste any time, you kind of winding through this picturesque Wisconsin town. It's, hey, we've got a murder on our hands, and then let's explore everything together, which I always find is a great way to hook a reader and bring them in. very, very well done on that
Oh,
front.
thank
Folks who are in the chat, just to give you a reminder, if you'd like to win or enter our giveaway for the chance to win a copy of both Model Suspect and Model Wave, you can type the word Cheesehead into the Google chat. Just make sure that you're logged into either your YouTube or Google account. You should be able to put it right in there, and we will announce our winner within the next 10 minutes. So TK, we've got book 1 was out in November. Book 2 is following shortly in just a couple of weeks here in May. And then we have book 3 coming out in November. So we've got this really nice kind of release schedule for folks that are like, you know what, I personally love to see a series that has lots of books with it so that I can read that backlist and know that I've got a lot to look forward to. Maybe talking a little bit about the craft perspective, was it challenging to, you'd mentioned, kind of 10 years in the making. Was that all 3 books, or was that book 1 and tinkering with book 2, or tell us a little bit about your writing process to get to this moment?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking about that, because the writing process is part of the magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I knew where I wanted to start with it. I didn't know exactly where she was going to end up. So what I've done with the first 3 books in this series, it's called The Backyard Model Mysteries. She starts out kind of learning her world, and I want to bring the reader into this world, right? The craft mall, the small town of Cinnamon, the colorful characters around her. And then I want people to say, you know what, I identify with some ideas or some aspects of Mel's personality and her family or the people she has around her. And then in the second book, I'm going to take you to, it's like a Wisconsin vacation in a book. I'm going to take you to the Northwoods, and you're going to be on a pontoon boat and listen to music and stop in at some of the restaurants and enjoy some of the food, the cheese curds, right, of course. And then in the third book, Model Ghost, I'm going to bring you back around a little bit more to the fashion industry and sort of bring some fashion people into Cinnamon who may or may not encounter some problems. I don't want to give that one away. But, I just thought it really hit me. Working on my craft and learning about writing took about 10 years. This whole series to conceptualize it and bring it to took the last 3 to 4 or so. Mm-hmm. Because you really have to get to know your characters. Just to touch on both of your work briefly, how well did you know your characters when you started?
Not as well. I mean, I kind of knew them. But certainly as the series and the books go on, mm-hmm. and I write more about them, I've learned more about them. How about you, Sarah?
I will say that I thought I knew them. And then as I began to kind of get into their story and have them kind of share with me what's going on in their heads and in their worlds, I realized oh man, and having to do some course correction within the series because I didn't know these things about my characters until they were revealed to me through the process.
Exactly. And that's so you answered it for me, both of you. As you write more about these characters, you learn more about them and you understand, no, maybe she wouldn't do that. Yes, maybe she would. Oh, here's a new angle I didn't realize. And then you want to bring the reader along, right? And sometimes when I'm writing, I think, okay, this is what I think she should do or what I should explain. And I find myself stopping the more I write about her. I say, wait a minute, no, what does the reader need? What can I give the reader, in this story that I think they'd enjoy? So, the more you write, I think, the more you bring your reader into the world and understand, okay, maybe this is what they would enjoy. Let's take them on a roller coaster here. As you get to know the characters, that gets easier to do.
That's some great advice. Yeah, that really is. That's, I think all authors could and should take that to heart, writing what the reader needs. And we've only got about 5 minutes left, but I gotta ask, as a little teaser for book 2, what I want to know a little bit more is about the delivery competition, because this sounds absolutely hysterical.
Yes. Well, one of her best friends is Steven, the delivery person. And so they're up north for a competition called the Delivery. So it's a competition among 4 delivery outfits, if you will. And, the cinnamon shakers and then the Illinois BAs, and they're competing with boxes essentially. So there's a boxing ring and they can compete with boxes, right? There's cardboard water skiing. And then there is a delivery, like a Pony Express delivery competition without any sort of GPS. So, what I like to do in the middle of a book is to have a bunch of fun parties or competitions. I mean, who doesn't want to attend that, right?
I mean, that's how did you come up with that? That just sounds like the most like fun, unique experience that I think I've come across in a cozy mystery.
I don't know. I want to have fun with the reader. Mm-hmm. I write books for people who want to laugh and escape. There's no bad language. There's no politics. There's no sex is off screen. I just want people bring them into my stories and have some fun. And solve a mystery.
Yeah, we can't get enough of that in the world. That's for sure. So thank you for writing that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And we've got a lot of folks chiming in saying that they're already invested. So Mark and Mizan saying I'm already invested in this series. So it sounds like what you're writing speaks to the people, which is always a wonderful thing. And I want to echo what JC said about I think a lot of writers approach writing of this is my story to tell, and I'm going to tell it the way I think that it needs to be told. But I will freely admit that, I'm getting ready to conclude my Court of Mystery series, and there was a storyline that I was very much gung-ho about doing until I realized that, I don't think my readers would actually appreciate this. And I had to kind of rein in my own personal feelings and write for them, because at the end of the day, that's who the stories are for. Right. So I think that is a very wise thing to understand, especially with, this first series that you have. Is there anything, so TK, you mentioned a blog earlier, I believe. You have your own blog, correct?
Right. I'm on Substack. I'm with what they call the Blackbird Writers. Mm-hmm. So I just posted, I just put up a blog post today that just came yesterday afternoon or this morning, just came up talking about the cozy mystery authors in Wisconsin. So I'm sharing some of my Blackbird writer friends. Wonderful. And then you can find me on there. I'm Bubbles and Fiber. And I'm just starting to load, my other blog posts into that one. So I'm building that list as well. So awesome. You can find me with Blackbird Writers too. Excellent. And you can learn about, a lot of other Wisconsin authors and mystery writers who are members of that group too.
Fabulous. And any upcoming virtual events, in-person events that folks can connect with you on?
I don't have anything scheduled per se yet. But if you need to know anything, you can always follow me on my Amazon author page, because I will post things there, and also through Blackbird Writers. Awesome. So if I have more things coming up, which I hopefully will, I will post everything there. And you can find me on, my Instagram too, The Backyard Model, and I share sunrises. So if anybody is like me, who's, an early riser, I'm a member of the 5 a.m. writing club. I like to share sunrises. So if you want to have a happy moment before you start your day, you can always find me there.
Yeah, and folks, I got to say, you got to check out those sunrises, because they are absolutely stunning. So bravo to you for your camera work there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I wish I could take credit for the sunrises too, but
No, don't we all?
Well,
I'm only in control of my world in the book.
Well, it has been just fabulous chatting with you this afternoon.
Oh, thanks.
I'm just filled with so much bookish cheer and fun, and folks, the spirit and the bubbliness that we've had throughout this show today. You can find it within the pages of the Backyard Model Mysteries, which are book 1 is available now. Book 2 is coming soon, and book 3 will be here in the fall. And we have our giveaway winner to announce.
Yes.
For the winner of our giveaway today is Susan Worrell. Congratulations,
All right.
Susan.
Woo!
So, Susan, if you can please email me at giveaways@itsbookishtime.com. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat for you with your mailing address. I will get that on over to TK so that she can drop your books in the mail when they've been released, because book 2 is we're still we're a couple weeks out from book 2.
Couple weeks.
Yeah.
But as soon as I have it in hand, it will be out in the mail to you the same day. So
Perfect. So
Well.
let me go ahead and just drop that in the chat.
And TK, while Sarah is doing that, we've not got another couple of minutes. Anything else you want to share with the folks here? Thank you so much. Any parting thoughts for us all?
Oh, it's just been so pleasant. And I love talking about books, and I love encouraging writers. I love, I'm an older, this second career for me, right? So I had a teaching career, and then I decided I was going to write books. So I'm over 60, and I'm just going to write till I can't write anymore, right? So if any aspiring writers are out there, I encourage you to do it. Don't give up. If you have a story to tell, do it the best you can, and surround yourself with fun people who are going to encourage you. And then if you like to read stories that are lighthearted, funny, about a wonderful state that's cozy and fun and likes to laugh at itself, hopefully you'll enjoy the Backyard Model Mysteries.
I definitely can lend my recommendation that folks will
Yes.
very much find there's a lot to love in Cinnamon, Wisconsin. So we're thrilled that you found your way to this second career, and we're also thrilled that you found your way to our show. So thank you so much for being here, TK, and we look forward to hearing more from you and Mel when Model Ghost comes out this fall. So folks, thanks again for those of you who joined us live here at A Bookish Moment. It's always great chatting with you all. We will be back with a show on Thursday for the Bookish Hour. Our guest is Heather Widener. She'll be joining us to chat about her latest mystery series. So we've got more cozy fun in store. And again, TK, thanks so much for being here today. It was fabulous chatting with you.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody. Until we see each other again, stay bookish. Bye, everyone.